The tips in today's Arc Raiders video will completely change the way you see loot and help you manage your inventory to look something like this. By changing the things you loot and the way you loot, you can completely stop using free loadouts and basically have so much stuff that losing it all almost feels refreshing because you just don't have enough space. It all starts with loot priority. This is basically talking about which items you should prioritize when you're looting and what items you should drop. And I've got a perfect example to explain this right here. Let's say you've got a full backpack and you can choose to drop one of these two items. Lance's Mixtape, which sells for 10,000, or a rare flow controller, which sells for 3,000. I have a feeling a lot of you might go for the Lance's Mixtape. It's rarer, it sells for more, it has more value. But when you really break it down, does it really have more value than this silly little old flow controller? Well, yes, it's going to up your account balance more, which means you can go and spend more money on the traders, which, by the way, absolutely scam you. And by the way, more on the traders scamming you later on in the video. But for me personally, I've been able to build out this inventory with a bunch of weapons and important crafting materials because I prioritize items like this over items like this. This Lance's Mixtape will get you an extra 10,000. This can break down into advanced mechanical components and sensors. Both of these items are used so much, and you're always going to be in requirement. The advanced mechanical components can upgrade pretty much every weapon in the game. The sensors are used for Raider hatch keys, really important. By dropping this item on the floor, you are locking yourself out of upgrading your weapons and repairing them. So whilst yes, this item does give you more value on paper, this provides more value to your account, despite being a third of the cost. Now, this isn't always going to be the case. You'll need some money because sometimes you just need to buy the basics or you need to store up for the upcoming expedition. So it's going to depend on what you need for your account to progress in that moment. And that comes down to a little bit of game knowledge, because when you're in a raid and you try to recycle, it won't give you the full story. Recycling in raid will never get you the full items, and you'll sometimes get completely different items, right? This can give us advanced mechanical components when we recycle from the menu, as well as some sensors. If we do it from in a raid, we only get mechanical components. So how do we know what to prioritize when it comes to recyclables, and whether we really should prioritize something like this over a rare trinket, which can sell for a lot of money? Well, I've got a couple resources for you. Firstly, the Metaforge Arc Raiders database is absolutely amazing. You can get this open on your phone or another device when you're playing and just type in the name of the item that you found, just quickly to figure out what it breaks down to. You can then go to the Recycles Into page, see what it will actually give you on the menu. And it gets even more interesting. Let's say you want to specifically focus on items that can give you advanced mechanical components, right? Something like this is really important to build up in a large quantity. We can scroll down and go recycled from, and we can actually see 37 different items in the game will recycle into these advanced mechanical components if we recycle it from the menu. All of the weapons, the bombardier cell, a lot of random other stuff. And then we can look at the recyclables, right? The mini centrifuge, the flow controller, the microscope. Knowing that will really help a lot. And once you start to get a hang of which recyclables turn into what, you'll realize what's worth bringing back to your base. I also have this tool, which was sent to me via email. Shout out to BovelDK for sending this to me. This is a really nice tool. It's called the Arc Raiders Loadout Calculator. It's a free tool to use, and essentially this is how it works. Let's say you want to build out a Hullcracker 4. Then what we can do is click Add Weapon. Then it will tell me all of the parts that I need to be looking out for when I go into a match. I'm going to need heavy gun parts, I'm going to need advanced mechanical components, Exodus modules, and a magnetic accelerator. So when I go to loot, I can prioritize these items. As you play for more, you'll start to remember what items need what craftables and what recyclables break into those craftables. There'll be a link to both of these tools in the pinned comment and description. The second biggest mistake players make is not doing the right things when it comes to crafting, repairing, and recycling. So I'm going to give you my strategy that basically allows me to ensure I have all of the crafting materials I need, right? Things like oil, magnet, durable cloth, batteries, arc alloy. So this is how you should approach recycling and selling basic crafting materials. We start with the base junk item, right? In this case, it's the magnetron. This goes into the recyclable category. There are many different types. It could be a magnetron, a flow controller, a frequency modulation box, laboratory reagents. There's a bunch of these items in the game that fall under recyclable. They do nothing besides recycle into other parts. Now, what a lot of people will do is they'll get a magnetron and think, oh, it's worth 6,000. That's quite a lot. If I break it down, I'll get a magnetic accelerator and one spring. Now, the magnetic accelerator and spring together is only worth 5,800. So I lose value by breaking it down. So I'm going to sell the magnetron so I get the most value out of it. But that is where a lot of people go wrong. Just like in our first example, yes, you're getting more real value in terms of your currency, but the currency does not provide you more real value. You will get more value out of the magnetic accelerator and the steel spring in terms of progressing your account and your storage and your stash than you will an extra 6,000 coins. And there's many ways we can look at this, because when you break it down into the magnetic accelerator, we can now use that to craft a tempest, an equalizer, a volcano. We can use the spring to craft weapon attachments. The magnetron can't do that, and 6,000 coins certainly can't either. Now, if we break this down even further, then we'll get advanced mechanical components and arc motion core, which is once again extremely important for crafting items. The advanced mechanical components is one of the most required crafting items in the game. If you want to upgrade any epic or rare weapon, you need these. And for arc motion cores, you're going to need those for creating launcher ammo and wolf packs. And you can, if you want to, break them down even further to get the basics, mechanical components, steel springs, and arc alloy, which is used for crafting some of the lower tier items. So you have a tree here. Everything trickles down from the rarest quality down into the lowest quality as you keep recycling. So we know not to sell the recyclables now. Instead, we should break them down. But where along this tree should we stop? Well, as soon as we break an item into something that can be used to actually craft another item, we should stop, right? We can store this magnetic accelerator and the spring in our storage now, because in the future, when we need it, we can choose to either turn it into a rare weapon, right? A tempest or a volcano, or if we need more advanced mechanical components and we're running low, we can then break it down further. You stay at the top of the tree, keep that item there, don't break it down unless you're really running low. Okay, but what about when it comes to recycling and repairing? What is the best thing to do when it comes to that, in terms of your weapon, your shield, and your augment? Well, let's start with the easiest thing first. When it comes to repairing augments, just don't do it. You only take damage to your augment when you die, and then that's not your problem anymore because the augment's not going to be yours, it's going to be somebody else's. So never repair an augment, there's literally no point. When it comes to shields, it's really a different story though. Let's start with the light shield. To repair the light shield, you're going to need 4 plastic parts per repair. So 8 in total to get it to 0 to 100 essentially. If you break it down or recycle it, you get the 4 plastic parts back. But to actually craft a new shield, you're going to need 4 plastic parts and 2 arc alloy. Now, plastic parts comes in plenty. Scrappy infinitely gives them to you. Arc alloy is not given to you infinitely and is required for quite a few crafting items. So my honest suggestion for light shield is always just to repair first. You're never really going to run that low on plastic, and if you are, you can easily go and farm a bunch really fast. Medium shield, it's a bit of a different story. To recycle a medium shield, you get 1 arc circuitry. To repair it, it requires 1 arc circuitry and 1 battery. To craft it, you need 1 arc circuitry and 4 batteries. But batteries are far easier to get your hands on than arc circuitry is. And in my personal opinion, I find myself running low on things like arc circuitry more than I do batteries. So for me, I usually will recycle my shield when it's taken too much damage and then just go and craft a new one. and when I'm running low on batteries, I just make a mental note to pick up a few when I'm on my next loot run, and I never really come into any issues here. For heavy shield, it almost always makes sense to repair it. Repairing it requires arc circuitry and voltage converters. But to craft a shield, you need a voltage converter and a power rod, which is going to require far more materials, right? You need the advanced electrical components and the arc circuitry just to craft one. It's far easier to repair the heavy shield than it is to recycle it. When it comes to weapons, yeah, you're just going to keep needing to repair these. And when it comes to epic weapons, that is very expensive. So here's a bit of a tip when you're upgrading weapons as you're using them. Make sure you repair a weapon fully before you go ahead with the upgrade. Let's take this Bobcat, for example. To repair it now, it requires 4 advanced mechanical components and 4 light gun parts. However, if I upgrade it first and then repair it, it will suddenly cost 5 advanced mechanical components and 4 light gun parts. So upgrading first and then repairing is going to lose you resources, even though it's the same result. You're getting the same weapon with the same reparation on it, right? So repair first and then upgrade. And when it comes to recycling, I just don't really think it's worth it. Let's say that you've taken a weapon and it's starting to get quite damaged, right? This Anvil 4, for example. If I were to recycle this Anvil 4 now, I would get 5 mechanical components and 5 simple gun parts. Now, what's crazy about that is recycling a Anvil 4 won't even get you enough parts to create an Anvil 1. 5 mechanical components and 5 simple gun parts for recycling, and you need 5 mechanical components and 6 simple gun parts just to craft an Anvil 1. So recycling, especially upgraded weapons, is really not recommended. I now want to take you on a journey through Buried City as we talk about the third step to ensuring you always have a super stacked inventory in Arc Raiders. The third step comes down to doing the basics. One of the easiest ways you'll lose money and have to force yourself into selling all of your important crafting items and maybe even get rid of some stuff you never really wanted to do is that you have to go to the trader and buy things like bandages and syringes and adrenaline shots because you don't have the basics when it comes to plastic parts, chemicals, metal parts, and most importantly, Great Mullen. You know, the harvestable plant. My suggestion to everybody that's literally going to save you millions across your gameplay's lifetime. Spend 20 to 30 minutes every now and again. Not that often, just every now and again, going in and farming some of this plant. Especially when there isn't a harvest plants trial active. On those weeks, just take some time to go and get some of this stuff because it will literally change everything for you. You'll suddenly be able to craft all of the bandages you need. You'll never even have to stress. You'll never have to spend all of your money at lances ever again. Every single map has a bunch of this stuff all over the place. You just need to know where to look, and you can use maps like metaforge.app to find the exact locations. Now we're going to go upstairs and talk about the other basics. You don't really need to go and do a loot run specifically for getting metal and chemical and plastic parts. It's a bit of a waste of time. Instead, every time you go into a raid and you go and loot, just consider bringing out a stack of some of the stuff that you don't have because it does spawn in amazing quantities when you're looting. A lot of people will prioritize getting the important stuff, right? But for example, right now, I know that I kind of am running a little bit low on fabric. So what I'll do as I'm looting here, I'll just make sure to keep a stack of fabric. I can break down the stuff that I know that I'm not going to need and put that in there. And we can just have like one of my storage spaces dedicated to grabbing fabric this run. Next run, we could do rubber. The run after that, maybe metal parts. If we try and leave every raid with like one of our storage space, oh, we don't want to do that, we want rope, just dedicated for the basics. Oh, nice. We're going to really thank ourselves later. And we won't have to spend our seeds on these things, right? And then That will bring us to our next point in just a second. Let me just extract and I'll talk about that now. The next important tip is what I like to call Celeste-Maxing. And, well, it's pretty self-explanatory. Basically, every single day, Celeste's store will reset. And she is the only place you can get the most important crafting materials. Every single day, you should try to max out buying all of these basic items first, right? The green tier items, because it's going to save you so much time and effort and boost up your loadout massively. Start from the bottom because these are the most valuable and they're needed in so many different things. And then make your way up to the top and try as much as you can to avoid spending your seeds on these base materials here. These are a trap. They can be found anywhere in the game. These honestly are a trap as well. These can be found really easily. The green and blue materials, you want to try and max out those as much as you can and spend your seeds there as often as possible. That's going to progress your account and save you so much time that you wouldn't even realize. Alright, seeing as we're here, let's talk about the traders. They're really good. They're convenient because when you're running out on the basics, you can just come here. You can get yourself the adrenaline shot. You can get some shields, augments. Great. Pretty nice. But just pay attention to the fact that the more you spend here, the more you're slowing your progress down, the more you're just going to hit roadblocks later on. If you followed all of my tips so far in this video and you stick to that and sort of build a nice routine as you're playing, then you won't need to frequent the shops as more. And you'll just naturally build up more currency without even trying. And you'll naturally build up a better inventory without even trying. And as you start to go through this process, just try to avoid using the shops. Appreciate that they're there and have nice convenience, but the more you avoid the shops, the better. The prices are just a little bit ridiculous. Take that one adrenaline shot. It's 900, which doesn't seem like much when you think about it. If we go here, we can make one adrenaline shot with 3 chemicals and 3 plastic parts, right? Really easy. And if we were to sell one of these adrenaline shots, it only sells for 300. Now, if you're like me, in the past, I would spend 5 adrenaline shots. Every single raid, I would spend 4,500 coins. I did this for hours. I actually only have stopped doing that recently. Now let's take a little bit of a look at my raider real quick. I've probably had about 1,000 runs at this point. I know, ridiculous. But across all of my time playing, if I had just never spent any money on these adrenaline shots and just crafted them myself, I would have easily saved 3 to 4 million at that point. Simply by just not choosing to buy adrenaline shots, I would have naturally built up enough money for the expedition without even thinking about doing anything. Now, as I come in to talk about today's final tip, I hope I've helped you all think about loot in a different way. Instead of thinking about monetary value, thinking about crafting value when it comes to loot. How much can a piece of loot boost our inventory through crafting? Because that's the true value and progression in this game. There's one more thing that we really need to talk about that I think is going to help you progress a lot more than you'd first think. And it's all about this little guy here. Let's get a little bit closer to him and we can have a little bit of a chat. Gonna fire some missiles, buddy? Come on. There we go. Again? Again? Looking a little bit shy today. That's it, buddy. Right, here we go. I'll put that on there and make a run for it. Hide quickly. Now, what's really cool about fighting Ark that I think a lot of people just don't think about, and in fact, I feel like most people never fight big Ark like this unless they need to do a trial, or they're trying to build up their workshop, or they're trying to make a bit of money, or get XP. Fighting the big Ark is the end game loop that everybody is missing out on. It's not about making money from Ark. It's not about getting XP. Let me show you what it's all about. We just loot up this bastion whilst this guy is working as a bodyguard for me. One final piece. Right, now we just need to extract and we can talk about this. I feel like a lot of players would never even bother to fight the big arc, right? Besides the things we just talked about. But I love fighting the arc in this game. The bombardiers, the bastions, the leapers, and it's really easy to do now that we have the blueprints for the better explosive items. What I see here is not 3 bombardier cells. What I see here is something completely different. The true value of these bombardier cells is 6 advanced mechanical components. Or, in other words, by just spending a couple minutes killing a bombardier, I can now take my Volcano 1 up 1 level, another level, and another level. Now, if you get luckier, you're usually going to come out with about 6 bombardier parts. Each bombardier kill or bastion kill is the equivalent to 2 fully upgraded epic weapons. Instead of thinking of loot as how much money it's going to give me, think about how it provides you value and how many epic or rare weapons you can build out of it. You'll be surprised at how quickly you can build out an inventory when you start to think of things in that way. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the comments. Cheerio.